I'm here with Stephen Hager of newidentity.com. And Stephen, that's spelled with an N-E-U, identity.com.
That's correct, yes.
And Stephen, I know that you have been in the field of practical neuroscience for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. And recently I've heard you speak, and I know you've also written about the idea that the brain of an entrepreneur is wired for success.
That's correct.
And you also talked about the fact that an entrepreneur has typical pitfalls that we face. And we want to talk a little bit about that. But first, I have to ask you, for the sake of me and for the sake of our audience, what is practical neuroscience? What does that mean?
Well, that's a great question, and I think it's a super place to start. Let me demystify it on a very simplified basis.
Good.
Practical neuroscience has to do with how we're unique. So as we take in sensory information from the outer world and experience all the things that go on, it builds what we call our neural diversity. It's our neural diversity. It's the ways in which we're different. So we have brain strengths, we have our values, our personalities, our emotional hot buttons, okay? Our neurodiversity also has to do with our knowledge and education.
Okay,
right?
Sure.
So everyone is unique. There's no two people who are exactly the same. So our neural diversity is the way in which we are different, and neuroplasticity is our way of building our programming.
So, and neuroscience is the study of all that you just talked about, is
Indeed.
that right?
Now, could I give you an example of neurodiversity just in a very simplified way so that you and the audience can get a grasp of how an entrepreneur's brain is different, wired a little bit different than other people. Well, first of all, an entrepreneur's brain likes to do something different, something that hasn't been done before.
Okay.
All right.
So inventing, creating, discovering.
Things that they can't do in the normal workplace.
Okay.
They're passionate about something. They've been thinking about something a long, long time. So they're very, very passionate. They're also very resilient and determined to do it.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
And also, even though there's fear present, they tend to move forward in the face of fear. And in the words of Winston Churchill, entrepreneurs, true entrepreneurs, successful ones, never, ever give up.
That makes a lot of sense. You also, I can think of different people, Thomas Edison, different people, come to mind.
What a great example.
Disney,
what a great example.
Yeah.
Thomas Edison would be a good one on that.
And Walt Disney is another, but you hear about these different...
Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett.
That's right. Now, you mentioned something about pitfalls.
Yes.
Typical pitfalls that an entrepreneur faces. First of all, what are those?
Sure.
And can you just elaborate a little bit on each one after that?
Okay. Well, there's three.
All right.
All right. there's three of them.
That's good.
Actually, there's 20, but I'm going to give you the top three.
Okay.
Because the top three, if you can get that, the rest are less important.
Okay.
So the top three is fear.
Okay. Fear.
Trying to fly alone, and being inadequately prepared. But before I go into that...
Okay, so it's fear, flying alone, or doing things by yourself.
Exactly.
And poor preparation, those are the top three?
And poor preparation. So why is it important to know these things? Well, first of all, the entrepreneurial spirit seems to be growing exponentially in America and all through the world. And you might say, well, why is that? And I believe that so many people are unhappy in their work, unhappy in the world, and they want to make a sustainable difference. They want to do something different that they can't do in a conventional work environment. And as we all know, every large corporation started off as a small company, perhaps a startup company.
Yes.
So entrepreneurship is the fuel for economic growth. It's also an opportunity for everyone to be the best that they can be in that thing that they are very, very passionate about. Now, would you like me to go through the three fears? I mean, the three pitfalls started
Yes,
with
yes.
fear.
Yeah, I think the first one was fear. Is that
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So you might say, fear of what? Right? So it's fear of failure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's fear of economic loss.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
can't pay
that
the
also
bills.
makes sense. Sure.
Yeah, I'm not going to get the money back that I borrowed on my house. All
Sure.
right? And it's also the fear of ridicule.
I wouldn't have thought of that one, but I tell us a little bit more about that one. Or actually, start with
Yeah, well, the fear of
fear.
ridicule is quite often, as you know, and I'm sure the audience here as well knows that when someone wants to do something different, there's always the, oh, you can't do that. That's a stupid idea. Do you know the statistics of the failure rate and that kind of thing?
Right.
So when you hear these things and you declare what you're going to do, you're out on the line. You're now visible, and
You're a
potentially
target.
and you're potentially vulnerable. Okay.
Yeah.
So does that answer your question
It
about
does.
ridicule?
Yes.
Now, there's a flip side to the fear,
What is that?
and so it's a two-sided coin, and that's the good news. So when you say fear is a barrier and a pitfall, what's the other side of the coin? Well, the other side of the coin is that an entrepreneur is willing to fail. They're willing to fail.
Okay.
They're willing to try again. They're willing to get themselves up, dust themselves off, and continue moving.
So there's
They-
a low aversion to risk. Is that another way to put it, or is that something different?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
And and the flip side of failure and fear is that you have the opportunity to be the very best that you can be. And I think that's innate within the human spirit. Are you ready for number two?
Yes.
Okay. Well, number two has to do with flying alone. And my observation in studying entrepreneurs for probably close to 50 years is that entrepreneurs, particularly new ones, tend to try to do too many things on their own. Okay. So if I could liken it to an airplane,
All right.
an entrepreneur wants to be the pilot, the co-pilot, the flight crew,
Yeah.
all right, the ground crew, and the ticket counter. Now, does it make sense that they can do all those things?
No, no.
No.
And I think probably some of it is driven, at least in the beginning stages, by economics and
Sure.
but still I think what you're saying is beyond that, there is a general tendency for them to want to do things that way. Is that
Sure.
right?
Exactly. Now, the flip side of that kind of counterbalances it is they have passion. They have passion here, mostly here, the passion to go forward. And they have a self-confidence, not only from up here as well. And they have that can-do attitude.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So you have a picture of what flying alone,
Yes.
the pitfall?
Yeah, and then there's that upside also about there's that
Sure.
passion.
Sure.
So what was the third one?
Okay, and the third one has to do with inadequate or poor preparation.
Okay.
Okay, so what that means is some entrepreneurs leap before they're ready. So when they leap,
Kind of like that fire, aim,
yeah,
ready.
exactly. So they haven't prepared properly for the leap, for the landing, because you want a soft landing.
Sure, sure.
You don't want to crash and burn
Right.
when you leap. And also, you need to be prepared for how you're going to navigate the territory once you've landed. Yeah.
Great.
So the flip side, which seems to still motivate entrepreneurs to move forward, is they have a deep belief in themselves. And deep within, I believe they have the belief that the world provides all the resources that they will need to succeed. Otherwise, how can they keep going?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So what are those three again? Fear,
It's fear,
flying alone, and poor preparation. Stephen, that has been so helpful. Thank you for joining us today.
And thank you.